Like we have, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like we have a quorum and plus a couple or one. And I guess we're ready to start the meeting. First would be the approval of the August 18 and the September 20, September 2nd, 2020 special and regular meetings. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Member Walrad made the motion and member Metzger made the second. Any discussion or questions? All right, ready to vote? I guess we're going to have a roll call vote.
Member Metzger.
Yes.
Member Erickson.
Yes.
Member Woolrab.
Yes.
Member Beard.
Yes.
Member Barnett.
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes. All right, motion carries. We have any letters from the public?
Chairman, we do not.
Okay, great. Okay, first item then is Becky McNeil, County Treasurer. She has 3 items on the agenda for today. First one's accept and place and file the County Treasurer's monthly financial reports, and I would entertain a motion. Member Woolrab, second. Member Beard. Okay. Ms. McNeil,
She's a
good to see you today.
Hi.
So I can talk.
You can talk. Membership,
Okay.
this is Camille, and I'm in this screen. We are updating a computer that we added to the room, and so you won't be able to see Ms. McNeil, but she is standing at the podium as usual. I just wanted you to know. Thank you, Ms. McNeil. I'm sorry.
It's all you.
Do you want to take the items for action first? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
And we have a motion and a second, so we're ready to go ahead and start with 1A.
Thank you. Okay, so the items for action primarily include the results of the annual surplus auction. We had 15 items on that auction list, or actually 11 that sold, and then we had 4 where the property owner stepped forward and redeemed the unpaid taxes. And so those are, we're requesting a cancellation of a tax sale certificate.
Actually, I'm sorry. The motion, the second was for your report.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
that's all
I
right.
normally go first.
No, I
I'm
know.
sorry.
So do you want to go ahead and do that?
Yes.
Hand out your
Sure.
information.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. We'll start over. The monthly financial reports, the first report that you have is the summary, sales tax, revenue sales, local cannabis, income and personal property replacement tax. We did have some good news for the month of September. Economic conditions are apparently improving and we're seeing an increase there. The total revenue on those categories for the month of September, $747,914 compared to $668,233 a year ago. The total, that's about 11.9% increase. The total year-to-date comparison, we are at $7,602,862 here in 2020. And that's compared to $7,681,548. So it's down about $78,686 compared to 2019 and about 1%. The budget comparison, our total budget, $10,030,000. Right now through the month of September, we would like to be at $7,470,605. And our year-to-date vouchers are $7,602,862. So we currently have a surplus when looking at the budget of $132,257. Any questions on that? Then we move on down to the shared sales tax revenue. Town of Normal for the month of September, $136,547. City of Bloomington, $184,381. Total $320,928. About 3.1% below 2019, though, of $331,246. Overall, for 2020, we are $2,619,000. That's compared to $2,827,000 a year ago. So we're down about 7.4% on the shared sales tax revenue. The shared sales tax fund has equity of $11,808,229 through the end of September. And then the motor fuel tax, as you can see, the renewal fund continues to distribute very favorably to McLean County. The regular county motor fuel tax for the month of September was $195,113. The renewal was $134,130. And then on the township side, we received $158,000 regular and $108,000 on the renewal. The month of September, that is, now we're back on track. If you recall, I mentioned the previous 2 months for July and August, IDOT was reducing their payments, recovering some things. And so now we're back on track, $5,000 there on the regular county motor fuel tax. Property tax distributions to the county through the end of September, we're at $33,821,721. So it's about 93%. A year ago, we were at 97%. So, but that's directly a result of the delay in the due date. I have a distribution that we're going to be sending in the next few days, probably out to the taxing districts, and that's going to put us back on track, basically, as far as where we typically are. All of this is a result of pushing those due dates back 2 weeks, which just extends out that distribution cycle. So, any questions? Okay. The next report you have is the investment report, and I wish I had good news, but nothing has really changed. We do have just a few things that did come in favorably for us. UC Bank came in at 0.4 for a CD running through December of 2021. So that's 15 months at 0.4. That's really good right now. I'm willing to take it, but not really. And that was a renewal, not really looking to invest in anything else right now long term, keeping everything liquid and in money markets due to the financial conditions that we're in. And just for the fact that the rates are just absolutely not there. Some of our banks came back with rates in the single digits. I mean, it was very, very unfavorable. So the Illinois Funds money market is sitting at 0.13 through the end of September. Again, that tells you that those rates are just not there right now. Because the Illinois Funds money market is where we have generally done very, very, very good. So just continue to watch it. The overall cash and investments total $74,572,806 through the end of September.
Any questions on any of that? Okay, go on to your next report then, please.
The next report is the Blue Cross Blue Shield, our self-insured plan. We'd like to look at these numbers for the month of September. The amount paid was $402,745 compared to $600, and it really is the right number, $625,781 a year ago. So our total claims paid in 2020 so far, $4,344,896.66. I didn't mean claims paid, I meant charges paid, total charges paid, including claims and everything else. So $4,344,896.66. We are down by $423,971, and we've been tracking down through 2020. So that's a nice number to have right now. Any questions on this particular document? Okay. The next report is the nursing home report. And here again, you know, it's a situation where economic conditions are improving for the nursing home. We had revenue for the month of August of $452,906. When we look at the overall revenue and expenses for the month of August. Our revenue actually came very close to the expenses by $15,078. There's a couple things in there that caused that August number, those August numbers on both sides to jump up. One of the reasons on the revenue side is because they received some CURES funding. On the expense side, their MedLife, I believe for 2 months, was booked in here. So even though they had the jump in revenue and the jump in expenses, overall for the month of August, they didn't do too bad by negative $15,078. Year to date on the nursing home, through the month of August, the revenue is $5,119,104, and the expenses are at $5,319,234. So that's a deficit of $200,129. Now, I look back to August of 2019, and at that time we had a deficit of $1,350,509. So big change, and definitely positive. The outstanding receivable for the month of August ended at $3,024,222. That is actually down year to date. However, a year ago, that was at $2,921,475. So the receivable is up just slightly, about 100,000. But you know, at this point in time, I think that they're doing pretty good out there. Obviously, they're watching their numbers. The cash and investments ended at $1,474,142, and that is up from the beginning of the year by $417,144. However, a year ago we were at $2,232,488. So, but that cash obviously is a reflection of the losses that occurred in 2019. And you know, it is coming back up here in 2020. The fund equity for the month of August ended at $3,638,421, and that is only down by $200,129 here at the end of August. So there are some positive things there to report for the nursing home. Certainly year to date here at this point. Any questions?
Member Beard?
Thank you. For the nursing home, and this may be more of a question for administration. How would you summarize the reasons for the improved financial position year over year, whether it's, you know, hey, here are the changes that have gone into place, and then how would you talk about that in terms of going forward? Are we positioning ourselves, you think, financially to be in a better spot as we look ahead over the next 6 or over the next 12 months?
Thank you, Member Beard and Chairman Soldner, for allowing me to approach. Yes, I think that I can briefly summarize the reasons that county administration would estimate that the changes as expressed by Treasurer McNeil are looking better at this time. Operationally, we are trying to streamline our staffing patterns. We are utilizing, for example, different scheduling patterns that allow us to have maybe fewer management staff and more CNAs and RNs on staff. So there are different changes. We are through attrition, just not continuing to fill certain positions that no longer help us operate the nursing home. So I think that throughout time we probably had a little more staff than we needed. And so with the changes in leadership, we are definitely seeing the opportunity to make those types of operational changes. It may seem small, but we are trying to reduce our costs in the types and amounts of foods we order. And so in that sense, even our supply lines are seeing a reduction and an efficiency, but an increased satisfaction by our residents in the types of foods we are preparing and having as choices. So I didn't want to allude that, we are trying to reduce ordering food. We're actually becoming wiser with our choices. And then, we have come to the health committee, for example, to actually increase our contractual relationships with agency. And that seems a little antithetical to the theory that we would be trying to reduce our expenses and increase our revenue. But actually, we are trying to keep the nursing home staffed and keep in line with our IDPH and CMS regulations, while then working towards constantly, each and every month, increasing our census and actually increasing the number of McLean County hires. And I think in the end, you will see that this balance that we're trying to do, this bridge that we are currently creating towards the constant increase in census and reduction in agency staffing, I think you will then continue to see these increases in revenue. So those are just some of the ways that through our new leadership in the nursing home, we have seen almost immediate positive changes. And then I think, Treasurer McNeil alluded to this, Member Beard, but we've become very systematic in our collection of old accounts and ensuring that we're receiving payment. So, those are the small things that all of that added together already has shown a positive change in the nursing homes balances.
Thank you. That's great news.
Any other questions? Okay, you had one more page, I believe, is that right?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to give you a little brief summary of where we are on the side of properties tax collections, especially this year is a very, very unique year. McLean County hasn't had a year like this for a very, very long time when it comes to the tax cycle. Thanks to the township assessors and supervisor of assessments and the clerk's office, we just kind of roll on a cycle, and our taxing bodies are the benefits of that. And our taxpayers are also benefits of that because it's consistency. They know what to expect and when to expect it. But this year, as you know, our due date was moved back 2 weeks, and that affects our taxpayers in a positive way, but also affects our taxing bodies. So I just wanted to cover where we are at the, and this was as of October 6th. We were at 92.2% collected. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but I'm just going to keep it simple. 98.2% collected, 1.8% uncollected. That was compared to 99% collected a year ago and 1% uncollected a year ago. Overall, that's $7,145,554 that is still outstanding. We are still going through the process. Nothing has changed. We're getting ready to send delinquent letters. All of this is very, very much like we have experienced in prior years. At this point in time, I'm not seeing anything that indicates that our taxpayers are, that we're not going to see the typical amounts paid as we have in the past, okay? So the distributions, $327,510,530 has been distributed so far. That puts us at 93.8%. And again, that was compared to $337,472,237 a year ago, which was at 97.6%. That difference right there is going to go out to our taxing districts in the next week. So that is going to put us back on track with our taxing districts, which is extremely, extremely important, because when those taxing districts are not getting the property tax revenue in, obviously it affects their operations. So we have 2,051 parcels outstanding right now, and we'll be sending out delinquent letters, and we'll be going through the process in the near future.
Any other questions? Any questions on any of her report? All right, we have a motion and a second, and now we need for Ms. Metzger to call the roll call vote.
I do. Ms.
No, I'm
Moore-
sorry. Ms. Moore. And the right initial.
Yes, you did.
Sorry about that.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. All right, that passes. Next item then is 4A1B, request approval of resolutions allowing the chairman of the county board to execute real estate deeds of conveyance with regard to multiple real estate parcels. I would entertain a motion. Member Metzger, second. Member Beard. All right, Ms. McNeil, you may take it away.
So these are the parcels that sold during the annual surplus auction. This is the Joseph Meyer trustee program. These are the parcels that had outstanding taxes for several years. County went to tax deed, and through this auction process, individuals are allowed to submit a bid. And as a result, because we've already gone through the process of acquiring tax deed in a very short period of time, then we are able to convey the property to them. As you can see, we had 11 parcels that were sold during the course of the auction, and then 4 mobile home parcels that the taxpayers ended up coming forward at the last minute and agreeing to make payment to bring those accounts current. So we did have one parcel. I was really blown away. Parcel 2101304002, you can see that one in your packet, sold for $41,500. And that has never happened before. But this parcel was a piece of property that contained a dwelling, a home on it. It wasn't in very good condition, but inevitably, I mean, this parcel will get turned around and will get on the tax rolls again. This money is going to be distributed out to the taxing bodies. So for many, many years, the taxing bodies have, taken loss on these unpaid taxes, and this is one example of the benefits of the program for the taxing districts.
Any questions? All right, we have a motion and a second, ready to vote? Roll call vote, please.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. All right. Next item is 4A1C, request approval of resolutions to eliminate McLean County's interest and return multiple real estate parcels to the active tax rolls. I would entertain a motion. Member Member Barnett, and second by Member Woolrab. All right, Ms. McNeil.
It's basically the same thing. Basically the same thing. So for that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, ready to vote? Roll call vote on that then.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Okay, that motion carries. That's all there is for action items. Have you got anything else to discuss or any questions for the treasurer? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have up is Kathy Michael, County Clerk. She has, looks like 5 different items. And I believe she's with us virtually. First item is B1A, request approval of an Illinois State Board of Elections 2020 CARES Act Grant Acceptance Agreement. And I would entertain a motion for that. Member Metzger, second. Member Beard. Okay, Kathy, good to see you. You want to start us out on this first grant? You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, thanks, sorry. It's all self-explanatory in your packet.
Okay, looks like it's $127,196. Any questions on that particular item? Okay, looks like we're ready to vote then. A roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item is B1B, request approval of the Illinois State Board of Elections fiscal year 21 postage grant acceptance agreement. This is for $45,351, and I would entertain a motion for that. Member Woolrab, second member Barnett. Any questions on that grant? Comments? Okay. We're ready to vote on that then, Julie.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson, Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Robustelli.
He's not here.
Sorry. I had marked him off on the other sheet and not on this one. I'm so sorry. Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item, B1C, request approval of an Illinois State Board of Elections HAVA Election Security Grant Acceptance Agreement. That's for $20,733. Who wants to make that motion? Member Beard, second. Member Metzger.
Swat and fly.
No, when he was, okay, Member Metzger, all right. Again, this is just another grant, as I said, $20,733. Any questions? Okay, sounds good. Julie, you can do a roll call vote?
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Last of the grants is B1D, request approval of request approval of a COVID response grant agreement with the Center for Tech and Civic Life, $102,484. Who wants to make that motion? Member Woolrab, second. Member Metzger. Any questions or comments on this? Member Woolrab.
Is this a new source of grant funding for us?
Yeah, it's the first time we had ever heard of them. And we had the state's attorney's office look them up and see where this money was coming from. And it's you can Google it at techandciviclife.org. And it's a not-for-profit organization, and they've raised $250 million. And they've distributed those funds to help with elections, of which we got $102,484. And it goes for ballot drop boxes and all the things associated with poll workers, temporary staffing, vote by mail, absentee equipment and supplies. So it's very helpful.
I'd like to thank them. I Googled them and looked very nice. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Julie, you can call the roll.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes. Okay, last item for action is B1E, request approval of an agreement with COT Systems. I would entertain a motion for that. Member Metzger, second. Member Barnett. Ms. Michael, have you got anything to say on this?
No, it's for further digitizing our marriage processes and things like that to get us up and going in the century that we're living in. So it should be very helpful to us.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, Julie, you can call the roll.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes. So that's all the action items we have today. Monthly report was included in the packet. Ms. Michael, have you got anything to report other than what you sent us?
No, just really having fun and busy with elections. And as luck would, or fate would have it, the vital records have never been busier, nor the recording office. So we're really working hard and bringing in some extra money for the county as well.
That's good. That's good. Any questions for our clerk? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Marcel Thompson, our Director of Animal Control. She has no action items. She does have general and monthly reports. Does anyone have any questions for Marcel?
Is she available or not?
She's on the
Wonderful.
little screen there.
Okay, very good.
Hello, here I am.
Hi. I just noticed this huge increase in the number of animals that are being registered. Thoughts?
So I have been working with information technology and some of the reports that we might be able to create out of our Chameleon program with the information technology on that side. And we're trying to see what this could be from, but so far what we've tried to say is that it's getting the word out and streamlining the process for electronic submission of rabies certificates directly from the veterinarians and making the process more digital so that it gets to us quicker and more efficiently, and also working really hard with the public to do more educational opportunities and things to get our information and our word out about our program.
Well, I think that is remarkable increase, and it's important, right? That we know where these domesticated animals are at and who they're with, and that they are healthy and vaccinated appropriately. So I just need to commend you and your staff for the effort. It's quite amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll make sure to pass that along to staff. They're working really hard to keep up with the new growing information, and I know they'll appreciate to hear that.
Well, it's acknowledged, so and greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Any other questions for Marcel? Marcel, have you got anything to add?
No, we're all doing really good, and animals are doing great, and we're still adopting and transferring and reclaiming animals to owners. Business as usual. We're just taking appointments for people when they come to the facility so we can maintain our social distance, and be within compliance with the governor's orders.
Okay. Well, we'll see you in a little while with your budget as well as Ms. Michael. So with that, we'll move on then to the item D, Michelle Anderson, County Auditor. She has no action items. She's not with us today. I see that Connie is, but I don't know. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, then we will move on then to item E, Ms. Rodriguez. She's got a long list.
Yes, I do.
And so the first item is E1A, request approval of a resolution amending the funded full-time equivalent position resolution for 2020 Fund 001, Public Defender Department 0021, and I would entertain a motion. Member Metzger, second member
Keep this
Beard.
moving.
All right, may proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. This was presented last night by our public defender, Ms. Carla Barnes, to the Justice Committee. And essentially, she is trying to reorganize her office in such a way that makes sense for the existing operations. And there are more individuals, we are happy to report, using the specialty courts. And Ms. Barnes would like to reclassify a position that was a social worker, but who is currently an attorney and can have privileged conversations with all of the participants of the specialty courts, and thereby provide some continuity and support to these individuals who need constant contact, kind of a combination of a social worker and an attorney, but we have someone absolutely qualified to do both, and the time was just right to make this change. So thereby, we have these requests for the committee.
Yeah, I serve on justice, and we had that, we heard that discussion. It sounds like it's a really good thing, especially for her clients, I guess if you call them or whatever. So it's a good step, I believe. So any questions on that? Okay,
Good.
Julie, you can do the roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes. Next item is E1B, request approval of a resolution amending the funded full-time equivalent positions resolution for 2020, Fund 0112 and the Health Department 0061. And I would entertain a motion for that. Member Woolrab, second. Member Barnett. Ms. Rodriguez, would you like to lead us on that?
Absolutely. Health Department Administrator McKnight had this discussion with the Health Committee this week. I can speak though with experience on this one. The position she's requesting to bring back into her FTE list to the communicable disease coordinator position. I actually had a hand in eliminating that position from the FTE list when I arrived at the health department. The reason at the time was because it was through attrition, and we analyzed the activities that that person was completing at that time. And we really felt that we could appropriately redistribute the duties. Now with COVID, as you can imagine, and as we've explained often to the health committee, and I'm sure you're aware, the communicable disease department is working long hours, 12-hour days, sometimes 7 days a week. And it would be very helpful to have this individual brought back into the fold. We don't have an individual in mind, but simply the position. And it would be targeted towards liaising with institutions of higher learning and with our K through 12 schools to be able to answer questions and concerns that those entities have, among others, even local businesses, with questions related to the pandemic. And so I think that the time is right, the need is there, and I just loved being able to give you the reason why we eliminated the position a couple of years ago. now it just seems right, and Ms. McKnight assesses as much that it should be brought back.
All right. Any comments or questions? All right. Julie, roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes,
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item is E1C, request approval of a resolution establishing rates for health and life insurance coverage. And I would entertain a motion. Member Beard, second member Barnett. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. I know there's a memo in your packet, but I've also invited Mr. Jeff Gilmore from our broker BPA Traxel to the conversation this evening. I feel, our staff works so closely with Mr. Gilmore and his staff throughout this process, which is includes a lot of negotiating, us asking a lot of questions. And I thought it would be best if he could give you an overview. So I'm going to ask him to come to the podium at this time. And I'd be happy to return and answer any of your questions as well. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Is it okay if I take this off? Are you okay with it?
I'm perfectly fine. I'm masked up.
So thanks for having me today. As Camille mentioned, we've been working really hard on the renewal negotiations for the 2021 renewal this year. We knew with the way claims had gone in 2019, from a stop loss perspective, that this was going to be maybe a tough year, especially with not knowing what was going to happen with COVID claims in the 2021 year. As Ms. McLean mentioned, this year so far from a claims perspective has been pretty good because of the shelter in place order. So we're running pretty favorable this year, but in the 2019 plan year, we had a number of large claimants. We have a specific stop loss on the county's insurance that basically insures everybody up to, basically the county pays up to $110,000 on every single claim, every single person covered under the plan. And in 2019, we had 10 people surpass that for about $2.4 million in claims. So not the greatest year in 2019. Obviously good to have stop loss insurance. 8 of those claimants are still active. And the overall stop loss market right now is not very favorable for the insurance companies. We're just seeing with a lot of the prescription drugs, the specialty drugs that are being introduced, we're seeing $1 million prescription drugs that are being introduced now. And so stop loss premiums tend to be increasing in general anyway. So we kind of had a perfect storm this year. Number one, Blue Cross for 2021 was projecting that your average claim value was going to increase overall by 13.8%. In addition to that, your stop loss insurance was calculating on Blue Cross's formula initially was projecting at a 220% increase, which is a pretty substantial percentage of your overall costs. Before they actually sent the renewal to me, that went to management and was presented to me ultimately at a 73% increase. So we obviously knew we had our work cut out for us on the renewal. So what we did was we obtained bids from multiple stop loss vendors just for the stop loss portion of the plan. We also requested bids from a couple of different pharmacy benefit managers, one being Express Scripts, which is a large pharmacy benefit manager, And then another one that was more of a boutique type pharmacy benefit manager in True RX. Really two different thought processes there. Express Scripts is kind of another big player in the pharmacy benefit manager world. And from a volume perspective, you would think gets some of the best pricing on prescription drugs. Whereas True RX is more of a hands-on, implement programs that might work with people that are on specialty medications and try to get them into programs where they were taking advantage of manufacturers' zero copay programs on drugs that otherwise were costing the member a lot of money and thus the plan a lot of money. So ultimately, we got a couple of different fully insured health plan bids, one from Health Alliance, one from United Healthcare. We got multiple self-funded bids from both United Healthcare and Health Alliance. And utilizing those competitive numbers, we really only got one halfway competitive fully insured bid, and that was from Health Alliance. And that's mainly due to the fact that they're really trying to gain more presence here with the purchase of Broman. So they had a fairly competitive, fully insured bid when you compared it to what Blue Cross was projecting for the upcoming year. None of the stop loss quotes that we were getting back were really super competitive, but we did use what we had to work Blue Cross down on their number. Ultimately, we got the individual stop loss rate down to a 40% increase. Blue Cross also increased their pharmacy rebates substantially. So we're up to a little over $300,000 in pharmacy rebates for the upcoming year on a projected basis. They had offered to increase administrative fees by 1.5%. Administrative fees in the grand scheme of things on your overall health plan are not a huge expenditure. And then when you took into account the pharmacy rebates being increased, your overall net admin costs decreased by about $73,000. So what does all this end up meaning? We looked at a couple of different things. We looked at, as I mentioned, the pharmacy benefit managers, the various ones that were out there. Most of the pharmacy benefit managers that were providing bids were either narrowing the pharmacy network that employees could use, or they were narrowing the list of prescription drugs that people could take. So we were seeing a lot of disruption from a member standpoint. I think we had just in the formulary itself, in the change in drug formulary, we were seeing 65 members that were going to be impacted negatively by making changes in the formulary. We were pretty pleased with where we stood from an average wholesale price of all the medications that were being prescribed on the plan. We were very pleased with the overall rebates that Blue Cross ended up at during the negotiation. What it really ultimately came down to was the only savings that we were going to be able to realize on the pharmacy side was by providing disruption, pretty significant disruption to the employees from a pharmacy standpoint or from a prescription drug list standpoint. So, and those are options that are actually available to us and have been available to us throughout the years with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We've just decided to keep things status quo in order to not cause that disruption. So ultimately, we felt pretty good about the pharmacy program. Blue Cross does offer discounts on admin fees and individual stop loss if we'll give them a shot at ancillary business. So we did get a bid on the life insurance and the voluntary life that the employees buy, and got a really competitive bid from Blue Cross. So ultimately are recommending that we move that coverage to them in order to save a percentage on the individual stop loss and a small amount on the admin fee. The other thing we looked at was increasing the stop loss limit. So going from $110,000 per person per year up to, we looked at $125,000 and then $150,000. And we ended up basically coming to the fact that $150,000, when you looked at the premium savings that we were going to save relative to the additional risk that the county was going to take on, it just made a lot of sense. And changing that parameter ended up in an individual stop loss increase of about 1%. So then we were pretty comfortable with where the plan was at that point and what the projection was for the upcoming year. But we also had this Health Alliance, the fully insured bid that was out there that looked pretty competitive, but you just never know if it's introductory pricing or whatever the case may be. However, I did share it with Blue Cross, and they ended up offering us an additional $200,000 credit that will happen on the first month's bill in order to offset the overall projected increase in costs. So final negotiations from where we've started where Blue Cross was basically projecting about an overall close to a 20% increase in overall costs when you consider the claims were going up 13.7%, and then the stop loss premiums were going up. These final negotiations and credits that Blue Cross offered resulted in about $500,000 in savings. So the final projected cost increase, and again, these are projections because we don't know where claims are going to end up at the end of 2021, but the final projected cost increase was a little over 10%. Knowing how the plan is running so far this year for 2020, we ultimately ended up deciding on an employee premium increase of 5% with no plan changes. So we were pretty pleased with where everything ended up.
Anybody have any questions? Member Walrab?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And hi, how are you, Mr. Gilmore?
Good.
Thank you. On that, you ran a disruption analysis on the RFP. How does that percentage or number, would that compare to a typical disruption that you might see if a company changed plans at the end of the year?
Well, I guess it depends on where your starting point is from a formulary standpoint. I mean, we've got when you look at Blue Cross's formulary options, we're on a fairly open formulary right now. And so if you're starting there and you look at, where are your biggest savings, well, then you're talking about restricting and more disruption. So
do you know what the opportunity would be for savings so the committee understands, if, and maybe for future years, because we are spending well over $1 million on pharmacy benefits a year. There is an opportunity, I'm sure, for savings to go with a more restricted formulary. What would that?
Sure, I think that it was not the Express Scripts that was offering any savings. It was actually True RX, and that was a combination of the restricted formulary, the restricted pharmacy usage, just restricting the pharmacy network, and also reaching out to these specialty pharmacy members and trying to set them up with their manufacturers. And the overall potential savings was around $200,000. So it was, when I say 65 potential, when I say disruption of 65 members, that was just strictly on the formulary side of it. Our most commonly used pharmacy in the network right now, and it's not even close, is Walgreens. And that was another piece of that savings, was trying to direct people away from Walgreens to other pharmacies. So it wasn't, it was fairly disruptive relative to just making a formulary change, or, you know, your typical formulary differences.
Thank you.
The overall number was around $200,000.
To those pharmacy benefit managers, the one you mentioned there, do they provide for mail order drugs so people aren't necessarily having to go to a different pharmacy?
Yeah, we basically bid out the program from a copay standpoint and a mail order standpoint. We bid it out exactly the way it stands today.
Well, a $200,000 savings, I mean, obviously not for this year, but I think it's something that perhaps the committee, the benefit committee that employees are on work with, they could be presented with something like that for consideration. That is a question. Was the committee presented with that option, and did they discuss it?
Yes. Yeah, we met with the insurance committee and talked to them about that as well.
They were not interested in it?
If I may,
Yes.
thank you, excuse me, Jeff. The committee and the employees as represented in that committee did not express a desire to change. I'll add, and I know you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gilmore, but we were also concerned with a change in pharmacy and a formulary. There's also increased claims when our employees, even just those 65, would have to go to visit their primary care or specialty docs to get a different type of prescription. And then any of the changes that they physically might experience could also equal more claims. And so while we don't have any hard data on any estimates of what that would cost our insurance plan, from a common sense perspective, we were also very concerned about that at this point too, when you combined it with all of the other changes, losing Walgreens, et cetera, and so forth.
Yeah, and I don't discount the $200,000 savings. That's obviously a significant amount of money. And I think we all agree that this is something that we want to continue to monitor, especially as these specialty pharmacy, these specialty drugs are just off the charts right now, expensive. And we do feel like at some point it's going to be good to look at some of these more creative programs where, people are actually reaching out to these specialty utilizers and showing them ways that not only can you save the plan money, but also save yourself some money. And, but there's a big learning curve there. I mean, we do it every day with employees that just call us. It can be something as little as somebody's on a high deductible health plan and they're having to pay for insulin. And we have to try to walk them through the different programs that are out there to try to get those drugs at a cheaper cost than the insurance company is getting it for. So there is a big learning curve, and I know you have experience in this, Lori. It's definitely worth looking at, and that's exactly why we did it this year.
Right? Any other questions? Member Beard?
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. My question's around with the high deductible health plans and health savings accounts. Do employees have the option of going and signing up for the best available HSAs, or are they locked in that? Could you comment on the use of HSAs amongst the employees? And I say this with the context that the rules in 2020 for HSAs have changed. They were really a great option for some individuals before, but then with some of the changes in federal legislation this year, from my perspective, they're even better. So would you be able to comment on that and both their utilization and what the options are for employees?
Yeah, so I think we have around 100 employees that participate in the high deductible health plan. I don't actually track who signs up for the actual HSA. I can tell you Blue Cross has their preferred vendor that is kind of an auto, I think there's an auto enrollment feature. Once you sign up for the high deductible plan, you enroll in that HSA, which is HSA Bank, I believe. So we're utilizing. And my experience is HSA Bank is, they're probably a top 3 vendor in the HSA space. But an employee can always opt out of that and go to a local institution or any online HSA vendor.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you have anything else to add?
I do not, Chairman Silver.
Okay, so we are on E1, 1C still, request approval of resolution establishing rates for health and life insurance coverage. Does anyone have anything else to ask? We're ready to vote? Okay, Julie, call the roll, please.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes,
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item is E1D, request approval of an ordinance by the McLean County Board amending 116 of the McLean County Code. Would entertain a motion. Member Barnett, second. Member Beard. Ms. Rodriguez, would you like to lead us on this?
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. This ordinance in your packet on pages 69 and 70 is representative of work done by our civil states attorneys and administration staff, which reflects our commitment to support an environment where our vendors are not being discriminatory. And so I know that this was something that Member Barnett brought to our attention some time ago, and we present this now for your examination, discussion, and any questions you might have. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Member Erickson?
Now, my question is in regards on page 70, D2. I see it lists race, color, national origin, age, disability, sex, sexual orientation, or any other status. Is there any particular reason why religion wasn't put in there?
I do not have that answer, but I'm looking to the back of the room for our state's attorneys to join me to answer that question. Thank you.
Hi. So there was no particular reason. We were writing this part of the resolution, and the list could go on and on. So that's why we kind of put that catch-all at the end of that, just to say that if there's any protected status, this would cover it. So there's not really a reason why that wasn't put in there. It was just, we found that we could put a lot of things in that line. So we just came up with the top ones that we found in other documents that were similar.
I'm going to make a motion at some point that religion be added in there somewhere. I don't know exactly where you would put it, but religion should go in there. And so I don't know when the appropriate time is to make that motion, Mr. Chairman, but I do want to make a motion. If you want to wait, I can wait.
What's this, sir? Esteemed council, believe when is the proper time?
You can make a motion to amend it now, and it's fine.
Okay, you can do it now, then if you like, Chuck, and then we'll need a second.
All All right, I'll make a motion to amend D2 to add religion. I don't care where you put it, just put it in there somewhere.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Is that, Member Barnett, is that your second? Okay. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So, should we act on that right away, or should we finish with the rest of the discussion?
I believe we, state's attorneys, in Robert's Rules of Order, do we need to vote on this amendment to the action item now, or does there need to be discussion on the amendment at this point?
No, I mean, it's an amended.
Thanos is approaching, he's pretty far back in the room, even though there's a microphone back there, so he's on his way. Sorry, I don't have the answer, but I would prefer the parliamentarians to answer properly.
That tilted up a little bit there, John. I felt like I was watching a Cub game from the rooftops way back. I wasn't sure what was going on at the plate. No, it's okay. The motion, as I understand it now, it's an amended motion to approve the proposed statute or ordinance as amended by Mr. Erickson. So that's the actual motion before the committee at this point, and I think you can proceed on that and call a roll call on that vote. If you don't agree with the amended motion, then you vote no.
Okay.
Does that answer the question? Mr. Beard.
Mr. Barnett, you go first, since you seconded the motion, then let Mr. Beard speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess just a point of information or clarification. I don't believe Member Erickson was motion, and my second was to make the change and approve the document. It was to just make the change, and I assumed that there'd be more discussion about the document before the whole thing was approved.
What I understand, we're going to discuss the amendment first.
You're still open for discussion. I took that as an amended motion, not as a vote. So you have amended the motion to approve the ordinance as Mr. Erickson suggested. And I thought we put religion right in the middle of the list somewhere. And so now it's open for discussion at that point. But when you ultimately vote, you'd be voting on whether or not to approve the amended ordinance.
Okay. Okay. So I think we'll welcome any discussion right now that anyone has. Does anyone have anything else? Member Woolrab?
So I'm not exactly sure how we would envision the contractors learning about this and, knowing in the future what their requirements are. So maybe you all had this, administrations had discussions on that. But I always think that a rule like this, once published, is the information that the contractors need to know what they abide by. So that being said, I'm not sure that I see the harm in listing out all the other, and I know, of course, there may be some in the future that we wouldn't know about, and that's where that catch-all would come. But, if I'm a contractor, I'm wondering, well, what am I not allowed to do here, or what am I supposed to do here? This is where I think I would go to find that. And these people are probably not HR experts or legal experts on their own. So I think they need a source to go, a ready source to go to that would list out all the currently known statuses that they're not supposed to discriminate against. If that makes sense.
Administration would like to just make a comment, Chairman Soldner. I do think, Member Woolrab, that the language therein can and should be incorporated into our contractual agreements with vendors and/or in published requests for proposals or even requests for information. And then in the future, should laws change or there be additional categories that would need to be added, we could always amend this resolution, but then continue to update any of our contractual agreements.
Does that sound okay, Lori?
So you're saying that the list, the exhaustive list, would be in the contractual agreement, not in here, what we're discussing today?
Well, I'm actually saying that whatever pleases the committee regarding the list that is in this particular ordinance today will be reflected in contractual agreements with vendors and all of those other documents that I mentioned. And then in the future, once, if there is any change in a list of what would be the requirements therein, we would obviously amend our ordinance to reflect those changes and then consequently amend any contractual agreements to reflect as such.
Okay,
I would then make a motion to list, and I don't think it's much more exhaustive than what's there. It may add a few more items, but I would amend it, like to see an amendment made to list the other statuses that cannot be discriminated against. And I don't know them off the top of my head, so I can't enumerate them.
okay. A second to that. Mr. Beard, is that a second or do you have a question?
Well, a question, well, and just a comment, and I think if you're going to like the, and this is the Google machine here, that per the Civil Rights Act, pregnancy and veteran status are the missing two statuses that are protected under that. So I don't have, I'm up for including everything that's on there. I mean, we referenced the 64 Civil Rights Act as well. So I would be happy to include those as well if it pleases the committee, but.
Are you second then or not? We need a second to her amendment.
Yeah, I guess just seconding Lori's proposal to include other missing protected statuses, which I think means pregnancy and veteran military status, right? So that's a second then, if that's what she proposed.
Okay. Lori, is that what you're proposing?
Yes, as long as our legal staff can, if there is something that Mr. Beard missed, they would fill that in as well.
All right. Any more discussion on this then? Okay. So parliamentarian, do we take Lori's amendment first?
So. Get my steps in. It's good. So the best way, cleanest way to do this, and I'm sorry that I missed the beginning of this. Who made the original motion to approve the statute or the ordinance? And
Beard, Barnett.
And Beard.
Yeah.
So,
Member Erickson made the original motion to include religion. And
okay, let me step back for a second, Member Erickson, just for a second. So you have the original motion that's made by Beard and seconded by, I'm sorry, Barnett.
Barnett
and seconded by Beard, right?
Chuck made an amendment.
So, Member Erickson has made a request to amend the motion. So since it is Member Barnett's motion, it's up to him to either agree or not agree to amend his motion. I took it as you agreeing to amend your motion to amend. So now you have a second suggestion from Member Wolrab to amend again or further. And so it's up to it's still Member Barnett's motion, seconded by.
Well, I don't understand how it's Member Barnett's motion. I made the motion first.
Well, whoever made the original motion
Then Member Barnett seconded the motion. And then we had a motion before the board to add religion, and then Lori made a motion to add the other categories.
Well, now we're getting into some.
Julie, are you still with us?
And what we're trying to establish, the original motion to amend the ordinance before you made a motion to a request to amend it, I believe was made by, according to the note, by Member Barnett. In any event.
It was not made by Member Barnett. It was made by Member.
He made the original motion, not the amendment, Chuck. You made the amendment. The original motion was made by Josh and seconded by Beard, I believe.
For the religion part?
No, the original motion.
Okay, what was the original motion?
It was
It was just to get it on the floor.
yeah, it was a request approval and ordinance.
Oh, okay, all right, I got you. All right, yeah, I got you. Sorry.
Okay. And so you made a request essentially for Member Barnett to amend his motion, which I understood was agreed to and done. So now Member Wolrab is asking again for Member Barnett to amend his motion. So it's up to Member Barnett. At this point, he can agree or not agree to amend his motion as Ms. Woolrab has suggested. And if he does, then that's the motion that's for the floor for any further discussion or vote.
I would be happy to accept Member Woolrab's amendment.
And Mr. Beard, then you need to agree to second that. Okay, that's a thumbs up.
Second.
Okay,
And so then the call to vote would be as to Member Barnett's motion as amended. And then everybody understands what they're voting on.
does everybody have that? Everybody understands, okay? Julie, I guess, oh, okay. Member Woolrab, I'm sorry, I missed you. Go ahead.
So are we approving the original, are we going, if we vote now, are we approving the entire thing, or we're just approving the wording to add the additional categories?
The motion before the floor now is to approve the ordinance as amended by Chuck, Member Erickson's suggestion and yours, as I understand the motion.
Correct.
And I have additional question.
Okay, very good. Yep.
So I'm curious as to the enforcement piece of this. It's not specified in what's the text as we have it. What would we be saying about, sounds almost more aspirational than it does actually like as a requirement in the text that we have in front of us.
The only thing I can answer to that regard relative to enforcement is, should we receive a complaint about a vendor or make an observation that it appears to be an allegation of a violation of this ordinance, then we would take action to address the issue with the vendor. I can't speak further. I'm not an enforcement entity of law per se, but I would say it would be a breach of contract if this is embedded within the contract or it's an expectation of a vendor, and we would take the appropriate actions therein.
It would seem to me, and I would defer to our legal staff on this, that though we need something in here to say that we may be able to terminate contracts or change them or something, you know, if we find out we have a discrimination claim and it's then investigated and shown to be valid, that we would be able to have some grounds to terminate a contract.
Of course. I will have Mr. Spanos get more steps in and approach the podium to address your concern.
It's an interesting question. If it's built into the RFP and becomes a part of the contract when the RFP is awarded, then they are contractually bound to comply with the statute. The ordinance. If they fail to comply with the ordinance, it's a breach of contract. What the actual remedy would be under those circumstances is probably open for debate and the subject of 100 years of litigation. So it depends. I mean, you can build into the contract maybe some sort of financial aspect or punishment or damages, but frankly, it would be a breach of contract, and then it would depend on, I suppose, the situation. You could terminate the contract if you intended to do that, if you were upset enough to do that, or you could seek some financial reward.
Is it appropriate then to write into the ordinance that it could be found, you know, a discrimination claim found to be valid could constitute a breach of contract? Leave it at that.
I don't know. It's when you stop and think about what you're doing here, is this contract provision says you agree to follow the law. So now we already have two, we have a law, and then we have an ordinance that says you'll follow the law, and then we're going to write into the ordinance that if you don't follow the law, following the law, then we're going to breach the contract. So it gets kind of redundant, you know, kind of run on. I don't know that that adds anything to the requirement.
So you feel that that in essence, what's here says that somebody shall follow these laws.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's what the law says too. So it's kind of, it is a way for the county to codify its, insistence, I guess, in having people comply with these sorts of regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Spano.
I hope that helps.
Did you have another question? Member Erickson has a question. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to ask Mr. Spanos if every time it comes up, if the Cubs actually win this time, because it would be helpful if he could bring that about. I'm sorry, Josh, I had to say that.
If Member Erickson, that's what it requires, I will come up as many times as necessary.
And all right, any other questions in it as a document on the whole? Member Barnett.
Yeah, I just wanted to express my thanks to staff, especially those at administration at the State Attorney's Office who worked on this. We had some documentation of anti-discrimination language in some of our ordinances, but this does a better job of really bringing it together and codifying it into a more solid state, and certainly appreciate their work that they put into this to make this happen. So thank you.
All right, any other questions? Any comments from administration?
Oh, no, we're good.
Okay, all right, so this vote will be on the document as amended, including the other items. Everyone understands that? Okay, Julie, you may call the roll.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes. Okay. All right, next item is E1E. Request approval of the fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Veterans Assistance Communication Fund 0136, Veterans Assistance Department 0065, Veterans Assistance Program 0074. And it's included in the packet on page 71 and 72. And I would entertain a motion. Member Woolrab? Was that a motion?
Oh, sorry about that. What actually have a couple of generic questions about the budget prior to this, so I don't know when it's appropriate to ask those questions.
Okay. Well, let's get this on the floor and then I'll let you do that so we don't lose our place here about it. So does someone want to make a motion? Okay, Member Woolrab, a second. Member Beard, okay. Laura, you can go ahead and ask your generic question before you forget about it.
Thank you. It's, maybe generic's not the right word. It's some broad questions. I'm curious, back in May, one of the things we had passed as part of our budget, our budget directive was about getting a percentage on the unencumbered fund balance, that would be presented to us in as part of the budget presentation. And I was trying to get a little bit of clarification on that. So we know going into this, what the proposed budget would give us, assuming everything went as budgeted, as a unencumbered fund balance for the year. And that's one question. And my second question, which I had also spoke to administration about a few weeks ago, was just trying to get an idea also to enlighten us as we move forward about what in this current year, what sort of purchases or repairs, that kind of thing in general, what have we not been able to do? What has been left off that we might have to think about for next year, or what will be left out next year? What are we going to be wanting for that isn't included in the budget? So we're aware of that as well.
Mr. Rodriguez, you want to address that?
Thank you, Chairman. I will do my best. I will first note that Of course, the Finance Committee has several department heads reporting directly to you, and they're awaiting, their turn. So I'll try to be brief. I know that this is perhaps, Member Woolrab, more of a full county board discussion, but I'm happy to try to answer your question. So relative to the unencumbered fund balance and the recommendation to try to stay at a 15% level, which is what is in the budget policy document, I'll note that the CAFR, as of December 31st, 2019, and that is an audited amount, is at 11.04% for the unencumbered fund balance. These are the only numbers right now, really, in the CAFR that we can actually be assured are correct because they are audited. Today, staff went in and looked at our fund balance in the general fund. And as of today, kind of like a point in time or a snapshot, almost as if we as individuals would look at our checking account today and see how much money is in the checking account. We have $11,386,934. That is a 10.91% representative of our 2020 budget. And so that is really the best we can give you right at this moment. And of course, why I say that is because this entire process, especially throughout October and maybe a little bit into November, includes all of the departments bringing their recommended budgets to you. It's like we're putting together the best of the puzzle pieces that we can and making those recommendations to you. But yet until we get to a point where it's approved, we may not know exactly how all of that looks at the end of the day. And then also, of course, there are so many moving parts that the snapshot is what it is today. So that's what our unencumbered fund balance looks like today as compared to December 31st of last year. The next question that Member Woolrab had was, what have we not done? What do we need? I will say that I think of department heads first. So I did encourage an environment where department heads should, in this recommended budget, bring to me all of their wishes and all of their needs, even if I would have to say no. And I actually, with staff and county administration, did have to say no to certain things. We said no to every single request for new staff. So we had the supervisor of assessments office request some staff, the highway department, the circuit court. I could go on. I know the building and zoning department did too. We said no to those things because it just was not possible to present you a balanced budget and say yes to those requests. At a very high level, there were also from other departments that do not report to the Finance Committee requests for equipment. And we said you can do some in 2021 and some in 2022. So essentially we said yes with a caveat. And so I don't know if those departments, obviously they would wish we said yes to their entire request. But in essence, we compromised and that was so that we could bring you a balanced budget. From another standpoint, and Member Barnett knows well about this because of our presentation of the capital improvement plan to the property committee a week ago tomorrow. We did present numerous capital improvement projects for the upcoming year and for years out. And of course, many of the department heads might also consider those needs were put off by our juggling of priorities and how much money we did have to spend. For example, we've got paving projects and parking lots where, some department heads may think, well, my parking lot has the most, bumps and divots in it as compared to others. And we have tried to balance those needs and prioritize those projects while we look at presenting the balanced budget to you. I really can't say that, I'm so proud of department heads. We had our departments take a 4% look back. They didn't cut any programs, they didn't cut any staff, but they looked at their budgets and said, we can do more with less. And we are so absolutely proud of that. Sometimes we went back again and we asked for a little more of some of the departments, and we're just absolutely proud of that. I can't really say that there's one thing that we are going to be without, although I think many of us would say, wouldn't we all love to have more staff? Wouldn't we all love to have our parking lots paved right at this minute? Wouldn't we all love our boilers, chillers, all of those things done right away? I think we would. But in essence, and I've taken up more time than I expected because I feel pretty passionately about this, I couldn't be prouder of the work that departments have done to help us bring to you a budget that I think we went up 1 cent in our percentages, where I think Kathy Dreyer said that was around $400 and some dollars. So I just think it's amazing how we have brought this to you, even though, yes, we've had to say no. So that's my answer. If you have more questions, though, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's talk specifically about the action item dealing with the veterans assistance. Is there any question? Actually, first, you want to lead off on some discussion on that?
I sure can, and I'll let you know that there are some department heads here or in the virtual room, but in this case, Mr. Jerry Vogler, I don't think Jerry is here, and that's okay. I will say that there were not many changes with their budget. I will briefly note that we did reduce their gasoline expenses by 20%. That was at Mr. Vogler's recommendation. He felt that because of the pandemic, even on into next year, they would be doing less transportation. So really, their budget is not a lot of changes in their budget.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, if not, we're ready to vote. Julie, would you like to do a roll call vote, please?
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Solner.
Yes. Next item is E1F, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Historical Museum Fund 0134, Historical Museum Department 0072, Historical Museum Maintenance Program 0072. It's on page 73. Mr. Barnett, is that a motion? All right, second. Member Wolrad, okay. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. The only comment I will make is we levied the same amount, so we kept things fairly steady for you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? The improvements that we're making over there, I believe on the roof and that, is that from the building commission or is that coming out of this year's budget?
No, well, yes, yes, and yes. Some of it, we are working with the Public Building Commission, and we will be asking for an amendment to our lease with them to really request a 0% loan to cover the cost of the architectural services and the construction on the roof replacement. It is likely that those payments that will be made a part of the, I think we have a whole year before we have to start making payments. So the 2022 budget.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for asking.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, Julie, roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Solner.
Yes. Next item is E1G, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the General Fund 001, Bloomington Election Commission Department 0048, City Elections Program 0053. Motion? Member Metzger, second, Member Barnett. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. I'll just only bring to your attention that the Election Commission reflects an increase in salaries, 5%. Those are approved by the Bloomington Election Commission. And so I just wanted to make that clear because, you know, we are not recommending a 5% increase for McLean County government employees, but I wanted to mention. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Any questions on that? Rab?
Do we have any ability to make a change to that then, if we so wanted to?
We do not. They are not our employees, so we don't have any control over that. It's the commission that decides that.
I guess technically we can maybe not approve the budget. I don't know whether that is even possible or not.
I wouldn't know how to answer that question. I suppose that is always a possibility, but I don't know if that would change the contributions that the city of Bloomington makes to this commission and thereby how they expend their funds as well.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? All right, Julie, you can make a roll call vote, please.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item is E1H, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the General Fund 0001, Assessment Office Department 0049, including H1 Property Assess Review Supervised Program 0054 and H2 Board of Review Program 0055. Entertain a motion. Member Metzger, second Member Beard. Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to lead us on that?
I can start the conversation because I'm pleased that Mr. Common and Ms. Clifford have joined us in the virtual room. But I will say also, and we've done this at past committee meetings that many of you have been at, we are happy if you are to combine these two so that we don't have to do two separate roll call votes for E1, H1, and 2, if that makes sense. And you did read them all in their entirety, but I just wanted the membership to be clear that in the spirit of efficiency, hopefully we can vote on both at the same time. So therefore, and with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Common. And of course, I will be happy to assist Mr. Common in any highlights relative to the budget presented. I see you there, Mr. Common, but I haven't seen you unmute yourself yet. There it goes. Are you there, Mr. Common? Yes. Thank you, Scott. If it pleases the committee, then I will just note a couple of things. I should see if the committee has questions. I had a couple of things highlighted, but they're not significant. Does the committee have any questions about Mr. Common's budget?
Anyone?
Quite all right.
It appears no one has any questions. All right. Julie, you can go ahead and call the roll, please.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item, E1I, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the County Treasurer Department 0004, including I1, General Fund 001, Financial Management Program 0004, and I2, Collector Automation Fund 0168, Financial Management Program 0004. Can we take both of these together?
Yes, sir.
All right, someone want to make that motion? Member Beard, second. Member Barnett. Okay, I know our treasurer, is our treasurer still here? All right, great.
A break.
Let her do the long walk and she can comment on her budget.
Good evening again. The budget for the treasurer's office includes a combination of the two sub-departments this year. When AP was moved over to the treasurer's office, a separate sub-department was created for that operation. And I spoke with administration and at this time wish to have the sub-departments just combined into one. It's just, it makes sense for our operation. Our operation is a financial operation. We don't operate on grants. We don't need different sub-departments. It streamlines things and will eliminate additional work for the staff.
Okay. Any questions for the treasurer? Member Woolrab.
Thank you. So does that explain, and I'm looking at the printed version as, and trying to align it with the online version. Does that explain the increase in salaries here that I'm seeing, or the positions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, it explains the 2021 budget for general fund and department 00404. The expense went from $433,598 in 2020 to a request of $603,118 in 2021. But that is what's happening there is that the budget that existed in subdepartment 0004, 0005, you can see that for 2021, it has straight zeros. Everything has been basically just moved over.
Okay, does that answer that? Okay. Any other questions? Ready to vote? Okay, Julie, roll call vote again. That's for both parts.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item, E1J, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the General Fund 001, County Auditor Department 0003, Auditing and Financial Management Program 0003. I would entertain a motion. Member Barnett, second member Beard. Ms. Anderson is not with us, but I know that the administrator will answer any questions. Is there anything you want to highlight?
Really, we had no big differences in the auditor's budget to highlight to you, but we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might.
Do they have any questions?
I have one question.
Okay,
It has to do with overtime. Why is the overtime significantly less? It's on page 87. Overtime under, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm on the wrong one.
No
Sorry.
worries. Yeah, I do.
Sorry.
That's quite all right. I
Wrong
was
one.
surprised
That's for
that you
Kathy
found
Michael. I'm
overtime.
sorry.
Very good. Thank you. No worries.
so I had a comment, I guess, and I was looking under the schooling and conferences. It's 0718.0001. It looks like from what I'm reading, the actual 2020 amount or 2019 amount was 0. Am I looking right? No, I'm sorry, 3939. The 2020 actual amount so far, in other words, this year, we haven't done any, correct?
Correct.
Is there, did you get that recommendation from the auditor? I guess my question is that still a reasonable number? I realize it's hard to know what it's gonna happen next year, but I was just curious.
It is hard to know what will happen. I think we definitely did work with the auditor on this budget. We meet with every department, and so I'm assuming that we show a decrease from the 2019 actual.
Right.
Really it's so hard to predict if conferences will occur in person. Many are occurring virtually. Some of those can be very important. The GFOA conferences, for example, moved to a virtual environment. So I think we wanted to build in still schooling and conferences for many department heads, but not at the amount that would include, in-person schooling.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, ready to vote? Julie?
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes,
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item is E1K, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the county clerk department 0005. And it includes a number of items. Again, do you think we can take those all as one? I know there's more substance to it, or do you think we should break those all out?
I really do feel quite confident that we could include them all together, and should it be the pleasure of the committee to pull one of the accounts out separately, we could do that if there was more work to be done, for example, on one of the accounts, but I would recommend to include them all together.
Okay, Member Barnett, is that a motion or question?
Yes. Motion, Mr. Chairman. I would move K 1, 2, 3, and 4 all together.
All right. Second? Member Woolrab. Okay, I guess, Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to start? I believe Ms. Michael is still on.
Absolutely, I can start off the conversation. County administration is here to support Ms. Michael in this discussion. I know she is here to answer more specific questions. I can give a couple of general highlights to the membership and then open the floor for questions to either myself or Ms. Michael. Some of our expenses did decrease in this budget because 2021 will be a consolidated election versus a general. So when you see some decreases, even in overtime or in overall expenses, that is one of the reasons. And in fact, when we worked with Ms. Michael and all of her staff on this budget, we actually used amounts that were the actuals in 2019 for that type of election year. So I am no election guru, of course, that's Ms. Michael, but I did try to use data that would inform my staff to make recommendations to Ms. Michael relative to any of those decisions that we made. I could go on. She has lots of sub-departments here, but I think in general, we really tried to use other years to help us determine numbers. And then there are some things that were just needed. I think that goes to Member Woolrab's question about what did we say no or yes to on what people need. One of these sub-departments really needed a new scanner to be able to do their job efficiently. It cost $7,000. We initially said, can you do without it another year? And they said, no, we absolutely can't. And so that was one of the compromises we made. So I should not talk more and open the floor up for specific questions.
Well, first, I was going to ask Ms. Michael, do you have any comments or anything to say about your budget?
No, just thanks for all the hard work that administration and everybody put in on this. It's a monumental task, and we were glad we could tweak things here and there and get the scanner still and stay within the budget ranges. So we appreciate that.
Okay. Any questions? Member Beard?
Yes, thank you. I know with the consolidated elections, with the municipal elections, sometimes there are primaries for that and sometimes there aren't. Are we assuming there are going to be for like Bloomington and Normal and we end up saving money if there's not, or do we need to adjust this if there end up being primaries?
We have always built in a primary.
Okay.
So that's factored in this one.
Thank you.
Right. Ms. Metzger, did you have any? Okay.
No, I was wanting to know if primaries.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right, well, then I guess we're ready to vote, and this will be on K 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looks like that's all of that. So Julie, you can do the roll call vote, please.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrath,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. Next item, then we are on letter E. And then we are number,
1L,
there you go.
the teamwork here.
All right,
Chairman.
1L, right. And this includes, this is animal control request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for general fund 0001, animal control department 0032, including animal control program 0065, that was I1, and I2, municipal warden program 0066. And again, you think we can take these both together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the motion will be for both of those in. Someone want to make that motion? Member Erickson, second. Member Metzger. And I see Marcel is still with us, so I guess I'll have Camille go first, and then she can pass it on if she'd like.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Soldner. I would love for Ms. Thompson, our Animal Control Director, to expound on anything she'd like, really from county administration's perspective. Her budget stays quite level from previous years. And so I do know, though, that she's such an expert about her operations. Marcel, if you have anything to add, please do so.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted you guys to know that we're doing really well in our program, and we want to have special attention to our rabies prevention programs, our education and bite prevention programs moving in 2021, and also looking forward to discussing some possible capital improvement plans that will be coming soon. And I got to work with administration on how we present that to the board.
Okay, I was going to ask the question, was there any of those items that administration had to say no to you? I'm asking mainly because I'm animal control is one of my pet projects, I guess, if you want to call it that. I was just curious if there was anything that would be on your wish list, maybe that isn't on the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years.
I believe we're doing really well after discussing with administration what things that we needed to look at in the current moment versus what we need to move forward into how we're going to make the improvements to our program. And so none of the things that we decided to say no on were essential until we, look at the 2022 budget.
Great. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Member Woolrath?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the budget, on municipal warden / animal control 0066, I noticed that the final numbers don't balance. There's a deficit in the budget there, and I just wondered, is that funded through another piece of the budget, or why is that allowed to stand that way?
Do you happen to know which line item that you were making reference to that?
Well, it's under it's the final totals under 0066 municipal warden. And the net grand totals show a $6,000 deficit to the final, expenses over revenue.
Marcel, I don't know, Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry, you probably can't see me, but I'm also looking at, I'm trying to find where Member Wolrab is observing a particular issue.
Bottom of page 106, sorry.
No worries. Oh, thank you.
Did you say you're on page 106?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dryer is rightly giving me information that there was a surplus in 11265 and the amounts offset each other. So good eye, but we have it offset as a surplus elsewhere in the budget.
So would that show as a transfer in the larger budget? Or
It's not part of the general.
it show?
Not part of the general fund, yeah.
I'm
It
sorry.
might be because we're looking at putting the cleaning supplies back into the budget after we had determined that it maybe should be in another department, but then back to our department. That might be something that I could suggest would be why it was off.
Yeah, Marcel, I'm sorry, Ms. Thompson, trying to be formal. That is a change that we did make in the budget, but not for this particular issue. There was just a surplus in another area, so. Any other questions?
Does that answer your question, Ms. Wolrab?
Well, if that's the way we would do it standardly, I guess it does answer my question. I didn't. It's a little unusual though. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
All right, any other questions? Okay, roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Wolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item then is Anyhow, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Tort Judgment Fund 0135, Tort Judgment Department 0077, including M1, Risk Management Insurance Program 0077, and M2, Risk Management Civil Program 0078. Take together?
Yes, please.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion? Member Metzger, second Member Beard. And Ms. Rodriguez, you can lead us on that.
Thank you. I don't have a lot of comment on this and can open it up for discussion. These numbers are based on the figures given to county administration from our carrier Gallagher Insurance. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about this particular portion of the budget.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. Julie, you may call the roll.
Sorry, I was taking notes. Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Wolrab,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Next item, E1N, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Cooperative Extension Fund 0135, Cooperative Extension Department 0088, Cooperative Extension Program 0088. Would you entertain a motion? Member Metzger, second. Someone? Member Barnett. Okay, Ms. Rodriguez, would you like to lead us on this?
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. The budgeted amounts in this portion of your document reflect our decision to fund the cooperative extension at a $300,000 level instead of a $375,000 level. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to expound about that.
Member Metzger?
Is this safe to assume that you then, based on these actuals, that you based it off the actuals, is that correct?
That is what, well, we based this off of the actuals and off of the recommendations from attending the extension board meetings with actually yourself and member Soldier. So these were the recommended amounts.
And member Thompson.
I'm sorry, yes, and member Thompson as well. I
Absolutely.
apologize. Thank you,
Yeah.
member Metzger.
And so they would have, if they believe that they needed more money, then it would have to come from their reserve fund. Is that correct? Okay. And
That
they
is
have
what
plenty
we're-
in their reserve fund,
We
correct?
understand that to be the case, yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I will comment. We had a couple meetings. At times they seem to be a little slow at getting information. But I think they're, in the long run, I think we had a good discussion. And they do have a surplus, and that's kind of why we felt like they asked for, I believe, $500,000.
Yes.
And we felt the 300 would be more, or what would be proper. So any questions on that? Member Beard?
Thank you. And this is from memory. We are required to fund up to the match of what the state of Illinois gives. Is that right? Or we've, in the past, when the state was funding, we would match that. Is the state still funding that, or how has that gone the last cycle or two?
I believe that this past year there were matches.
Okay.
And so but in previous years, there were not matches and we still funded them. So we are, whatever we provide is what the state is supposed to provide, but they don't always do that. So in the past, we would provide 500,000 and they would, in some cases, I think they didn't even do a match at all one year. So that's not something we have a lot of control of, and we can't, yes, we have no control.
And I believe they also understand that, or at least plan for the fact that they can't predict what the state's going to do. And so I think it's just a matter, they have to be careful how they spend their money because they don't know what the revenue side is going to be. But anyhow.
I'm not sure if it's my place, but if I may, the members of the county board that sit on this extension board and have these discussions really hold the extension accountable and ask amazing drill down questions. I think you should all be pleased with the effort that these members are making, your colleagues. Thank you.
Member Metzger?
And I must say that we have to commend Ms. Dreyer and also Cassie Taylor, Ms. Taylor, because they helped us get to that point that we could really ask those very important questions. So I want to commend them for a significant amount of effort that went into preparing the documents and preparing us for those meetings.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrath,
Yes,
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Okay, that's the action items on our agenda. Thank you very much for the patience working through these. Next, we have,
Can I ask, can we take a very short break? Is that possible?
does anyone have a problem with a couple minute break? Okay, I would say no objection.
I left my top off my car. Okay. I just want to go put it up because it's going to be pitch black before I get back. Of course.
Hello?
I don't have any jokes or entertainment, so sorry about that.
I saw Shakira up earlier. Maybe she could entertain us a little bit.
Hello. Hello.
Bob.
Can you hear me?
I'm looking at my state's attorneys.
I can't.
We're just in a recess.
Just in recess.
Do we need to put up a graphic or can we just stay live?
No, as long as we're not discussing business, I think we're probably fine. Unexplored territory here.
As long as we're not discussing business, you can just leave it as is. It shouldn't take too long, but thank you for being cognizant of that issue.
Supposed to put up in a brief recess, but.
So do you want to dismiss Mr. Common?
I was going to. Mr. Common, if you can hear me, this is Camille. We're so happy to see your face. We're not discussing business right at the moment, but we already passed your budget to be recommended on to the full county board. So thank you very much for all your work. You don't have to stay unless you just want to.
Oh my. So we don't have the ability to shut our camera off. I guess we
We
can.
can.
That's all right. It's all right.
Three, 332, 846.
Shakira. She's our mascot.
Wants to vote, won't let her though. She wants to vote, can't let.
We've already been through animal control.
The animal control budget, yeah.
I did like how you said the animal control
That
shelter
was so cute.
department is your pet.
Lady.
And believe it or not, I didn't intend for that to be a punch, but it ended up being that way, so.
Marcel, if you can hear me, am I muted? Jonathan? I am not
I
muted.
can hear you.
Oh, good. Marcel, you do not need to stay unless you just want to. Thank you so much for all of your time this evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all your help and everyone on the board. Thank you as well.
Thank you.
And I assume you don't have to have.
We do not.
That's fine.
Thank you. I apologize. I just knew this might take a long time.
Okay, we are back in, from our recess, and we are ready for E2A, McLean County Loan Program discussion. I believe we all got sent a a copy of some discussion with from Patrick Hogan and Camille. So Camille, you want to start us out?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Hoban sends his regards. He had planned to be here this evening and had something come up that he couldn't anticipate. I will do my best to try to reflect why we're having this discussion tonight, and then answer any questions that I can without him being here. So if you might recall, at the last Finance Committee on September 2nd, Mr. Hoban presented the status of the micro bridge and recovery loan program. And, as you know, you've had one successful application for a recovery loan of $5,000 that actually then was covered by a private donor. So that's a wonderful thing. And we were very grateful. But at that time, then Member Robustelli had asked us to start thinking proactively about what we might do to increase the number of applicants, especially, for example, with restaurants who right now are utilizing a lot of the outdoor dining, but with fall and winter coming up, they may not be able to do the same. That was just one example. We had some robust discussion about some of the particulars, and then Mr. Hoban and I requested that you email us some ideas. This document from Mr. Hoban is representative, he hopes, of the sort of collaboration of all of those suggestions. And I do think it's a springboard for more discussion. That is why I did not make it an action item this evening. I felt like there still probably needs to be more discussion. We can do some of it here. And Mr. Hoban and I are also happy to take phone calls or have discussion appropriately, probably more so one-on-one with you all, should you have more specific or lengthy questions or concerns, or even things that I cannot answer this evening. So definitely what he has in this document is representative of maybe some grants that could be provided to small businesses that represent some of the issues you brought up, which included COVID supplies, and it included technology concerns. There is an option in here for forgivable loans at zero interest for some, again, COVID supplies and technology. And then there was the concern about food insecurity in our community and utilizing restaurants to provide food to those in need. And that was a grant as well. I'm probably not doing justice to all that could be talked about this, but we also know that, we are in a position where there's still, according to Mr. Hoban, are opportunities out there for other grants. They are still coming in from the state. I know he has mentioned, I have even heard of some of our municipalities using some of their CARES dollars for grants for some of these very particular issues. And I've even seen, for example, I'll call out the chamber because McLean County is a member. I saw on their website, just give us a call if you're a small business and we'll give you 100 masks and some hand sanitizer, I believe it was. I thought that was a great opportunity for our local businesses to partner with the chamber and take advantage of those opportunities. And so, again, I hope that what Mr. Hoban has brought forth today after talking with me and reviewing your suggestions is a start to represent what you had hoped for. But again, the reason I put it down as discussion and not action is because I figured we would have more to discuss in this regard. So I'm done now with my
Okay.
sir.
Does anybody have a comment or suggestion? Member Wolrab?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be brief. I wrote a letter and contacted about 40-ish of the uptown, mostly uptown normal businesses that are in my district, and asked them to get a hold of me if they had any thoughts on this program. Basically, the letter was, we have money, we're trying to construct a program. What are, here are some thoughts of mine. What do you think kind of reach out. Several of them did reach out to me, and what I pretty much heard across the board, not surprisingly, is that they would prefer a grant program. That none of them that I spoke to felt like they wanted to take any risk right now with loans. So that's why I proposed to Mr. Holben the possibility of a grant program, small grants. Some of them said they had ideas of what they needed, or even some were purchasing some things that maybe could be assisted with at this point. I don't know, maybe they could submit to us. I don't know how we'd construct that, but that's what I heard back from these. Mostly the small independent business owners for who I spoke with.
Thank you.
All right. Member Barnett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had sent Mr. Hoban some links to some programs that are going on in the collar counties, and some of what I had sent him is reflected here in the document that's in front of us. So it's great to see that we're able to at least consider implementing some best practices that some other counties within the state are already currently doing. Within the past week, there have been 2 articles, one in the Panagraph and one on WGLT, talking about restaurants in the area, locally owned restaurants, and the concern of those owners as we're heading into the winter months and they're going to be losing their outdoor seating, or at least the desire of patrons to sit outside and eat during January will not be very high. So I'm excited to see option number 3 on here, the food insecurity grants. I think that aligns well with some of the work that United Way is currently doing. And if we can keep folks working in restaurants, keep some of these local small restaurants open, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone and help them get through this becoming winter months, I think that's a win-win for everyone. But I'm pleased to see all 3 of these options that are laid out here.
Mr. Erickson?
Chairman, I'm pleased to see these options too. I saying back last May that we needed to find a way to get rid of this 600,000. The only thing I would caution this committee on is I am next to Jim. I'm the senior member of this committee, and I've watched us debate this money ad nauseum for almost 2 to 3 years as to what we're going to do with it. And every time it ends up still being there. So, it never goes anywhere. It always stays in place. And we come up with these grand plans to disperse it, and it never happens. Personally, like number 2, only because it's structured, it's easy to verify. If someone wanted, say, $3,000 and they provided a receipt for heat lamps, sanitation supplies, and software, the loan would be forgivable if they provided the receipts. So I like the idea of the loan being forgivable with some proof that the money was actually spent for the things that we have listed here. I know some members had an issue with it being just a direct grant. And that protects both. It would be a grant if they actually spend the money on the things that they have listed. But if they don't, it could be turned into a loan at, say, 1% or something like that. It's not hard to comply with number 2 for the reason is it's not hard to provide a receipt for a heat lamp. Not hard to provide a receipt for software. It's not hard to provide a receipt for sanitation supplies, etc. So I didn't want it to become a compliance nightmare for us, trying to buy everything they did, because that could be a headache more than we want to take on. But I do agree that there ought to be some proof of what they spent, but I also like it turning into a grant if they spent it. So. And Jim, I hope you would back me up that you said on those committees where we have debated what to do with this stuff for almost the last 2 years, and we still haven't gotten rid of this money. I mean, we've tried and tried and tried, and hopefully we find a way to do it this time. And so Everybody compromised the last time to get us to get a plan out. And we did get a plan out, it's just nobody utilized it. So, so this time I hope we get something that everybody comes together on and we get this money out there. So thank you.
Member Metzger?
So we did have an applicant that got a recovery loan, and we were honored to accept a donation for that. My question would be, would it be offensive to offer, if we provide these grants or forgivable loans, to convert that loan into one of these others if we go in this direction? And the reason I ask that, it seems a bit, I know that it's a small business. It's actually one, it's in your district, I know. And I don't know if that's presumptuous or if it would be offensive to the donor. I don't know. I was just wondering.
If I may, Member Metzger and Chairman Zollner, I definitely would be willing to approach Mr. Hoban, who has had contact with the donor. What could be a solution is, if it was converted, that donation could still be respected and put into whichever option we choose. But obviously, we would want to be respectful of the provision of those dollars and the intent. But we would definitely research it.
Well, and I know it's a little premature. It was just that came to mind when we are looking at this, because we have not, we're not going to be able to make a decision tonight. So once the decision is made, I don't know if we can pursue that in some way in a very polite and respectful manner.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Member Beard?
Thank you. And yeah, I like what's here. I think it integrated a lot of the ideas that a lot of us have been talking about. Specifically, I like the idea about the 0% interest rate. I think, we don't need to be making interest income off of this. And that feels like something that would, for the loan component, encourage folks to take it up, knowing that you're paying back. What would be paying back would be exactly what you received. In terms of the components on the restrictions of businesses forced to close, I think it's important that we, what does the process look like that it's an impacted business, but not necessarily a closed business. So like a restaurant, or any kind of establishment which may have now severe restrictions that, limit hours or limit staff, they would be eligible. We wouldn't have to have them closed to be eligible for this. And on the other end, we don't want this going to, office workers or, businesses that have no impact and are doing just fine. So the details of how we do that are important. And then the other idea, I'm all for the grant idea, whatever that looks like, whether it's a grant plus loan. I think it sounds like there's widespread agreement for that concept. But how do we maximize the impact? And this is where the idea of the smaller dollar. You could fund, we could fund one restaurant for 2 months and be all out of money, and then have that restaurant go under a month later once the money runs out. So in the grand scheme of things, $600,000 in an economy the size of McLean County isn't necessarily a lot. So dispersing the amount, letting it help a lot of businesses, a lot of individuals, that extra 5%, 10%, 15% over these winter months, that economically is going to have the biggest impact, the widest impact, and will help the dollars go further. So I think a lot of those concepts are captured in here. So if we're, and we also need to move relatively quickly. So whatever, I guess, the chairman or administration or EDC feels in terms of the schedule for voting for this is, I think that point was made last month, that we don't want to get into December, January to vote on this.
I believe that maybe the next step then, if this gets approved, Mr. Hoban have any suggestions on how this is going to actually be implemented? As far as, will there be a check written out of the treasurer of McLean County? Will this money be in a separate account? How will that all work?
We didn't go into those particular details, but we would have to obviously ensure that we complied with what our external auditors would agree with and with what the treasurer would have to do to support us on this. But I would make an assumption that we would have to write a check, yes.
Okay.
And if I may, while I have the floor for efficiency, if it pleases the committee, I mean, we could write something up and bring it to stand up. We've been trying to stay away from stand up actions, but I think if we didn't want to have to wait another month, we certainly could, with your blessing, bring something forward in that regard, so it didn't have to wait till the November cycle.
And I think that's why it's important to kind of work out our, at least our wishes in this committee, and it can move on then. But is there anything else that anybody comments or other things they'd like to see done with this? Does anybody got a suggestion? Member Wolrad?
So I guess talking about the loan, the number 1 versus number 2, it seems like it's almost a combination. We could almost combine the two and say, and it's a grant as long as you provide us information. I'm just concerned about the communication piece on this. If we go out there with a forgivable loan, I think we're almost in the same position. Even people aren't reading the detail. We're almost in the same position as we are now. And people are, I don't want a loan. That's what I heard from people. They just don't feel like they want to take on any more debt or can take on debt right now. And I was just thinking concerning not funding operations. I was thinking we're going to try to fund projects or purchases like PPE or heat lamps that would help people get through, as far as they can with what we're going to provide them. So those are my additional thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Metzger?
I have two thoughts. I agree with Member Wolrab on operational monies I don't think, we don't have the funding to do that. $600,000 as Member Beard identified it's a significant sum of money. I don't want to, but in the scheme of all of McLean County, it's relatively small. So I agree with Member Wolrab on the operational side of things. I would like, before, if it would come to a stand up, I guess I would want to have a little understanding. And so there'd be some legwork that would need to be done on the administrator side to develop a process or the procedures that this would, a high level procedural document, so we would understand how that is going to happen. We don't need the details, obviously, but I just want to make sure that we don't put you in a bind and say, here, implement it, and then we can't really do that. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can do that.
Okay.
I will add that I will consult with Mr. Hoban. The Community Development Council is the entity that has a process in place for the loans and the microbridge loans. And so I would make an assumption that there would still be a process, even if we move to a granting opportunity, that it would still perhaps go through those board members. And so certainly I will work with Mr. Hoban on getting answers and solid processes in that regard.
Okay.
So do we have to have a motion to move it to?
Well, it's not an action item, so I would say what we need to do is if
Looks like
Mr.
Member
Rodriguez-
Baird and Member Erickson have something to say.
Yeah, if administration feels like they have something to bring to stand up, then that's what I would suggest. Member Erickson, did you say? Oh, Chuck, you got
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I would just hope we'd consider doing the forgivable loan, only because it's not hard to provide a receipt. That's not that tight. I mean, if we were asking them to provide payroll information, that would be a nightmare. That would be an absolute nightmare for us. But if we're asking them merely to provide a receipt, because before they applied, they could figure they needed 3 heat lamps. They needed, you know, $2,000 of software, and they could tell us what they wanted to have. And then we could just ask for a receipt in return. It wouldn't be that cumbersome. I just don't want to hear that someone got a grant and they didn't use it for what we intended it for. I mean, that's what I don't want to hear. And then I get a constituent calling me up saying, you know, XYZ restaurant owner is down in Mexico, you know, sipping pina coladas and on county money. So I do think there has to be a little bit of watching of what it goes for. So thank you.
Does someone else have a question? Member Beard?
Yeah, and I don't necessarily want to advocate for scheduling an additional meeting, but if you want to put a special meeting just for this, or not knowing how busy the stand-up agenda is and how close to a final product we think we're going to have, I would be fine at your direction if you wanted to meet a couple of days before or whenever, just to talk about this item as well. So whatever you think's best.
Thank you, Member Beard. At this point, there is little to nothing on the stand-up agenda, but should we need more conversation, I will talk with Chairman Soldner, I'm sorry, and see what we can do to make the tie a bow on the conversation and make it an action. Thank you.
All right. Okay, are we ready to move on then? Okay, last item on the agenda is the report on recent employment activities. Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes, you'll find that on the last page of your packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And I'll just say while I have the floor, thank you for your time this evening. I really appreciate it.
All right, any questions on that? Okay, last item we have then is.
Paying bills. No,
Yeah, last item we have is the payment of bills. And Julie, do you have that figure in front of you? I got it here on my phone somewhere.
Hang on, sorry. I have that amount in front of me. I wrote it down here too, but let me blow this up so I can see it because I'm blind.
There we go.
Okay, we have a prepaid total and a fund total in the amount of $1,004,109.78.
Motion to pay those bills. Member Barnett, second. Member Beard? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
That's right.
Member Woolrath,
Yes.
I didn't print it.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes. Okay, does anybody have any other business? Okay, well, thank you all for being patient and we'll see you next time. Meeting adjourned.